The first thing you will notice when you enter Inanu Close is not the house, is not the flowers or the half-broken signboard that says Godwin Gardens in fading blue paint, but the noise, because that place is like the Federal Ministry of Wahala, and every tenant has a department. From early morning, you would hear Mama Ima frying akara with loud sizzling oil while shouting, "Buy hot akara before it will finish," in a voice that can wake the ancestors. You would also see children running after each other with slippers as weapons. One boy dragging a bicycle with no tire but still calling it jets. One woman screaming at her husband through the window because he forgot to buy Maggie. The tap outside coughing out water like an old man breathing after trekking. And somewhere in the middle of all this is Madam Margaret, the official landlady and unofficial Minister of Interior Affairs. People call her Madam Maggie because she puts Maggie inside every matter, whether the matter needs it or not. The compound itself is a long 2-story building painted in a color that used to be cream many years ago, but now looks like the uniform of a tired civil servant close to retirement. There are rooms facing each other as if they are arguing. There are clothes hanging on lines like flags of different nations. You will see jeans, wrapper, baby clothes, shirts with "I am a big boy" printed on it, even though the person wearing it is still in primary 3. You will see one wig hanging like a dry bush rat on the line. You will see 2 braziers saluting the sun, and you will see one senior boy boxer short with holes showing confidence because it has refused to retire. This is the environment new tenants enter with excitement and hope because they do not know that behind this noisy market is a woman whose pettiness has history. The landlady, Madam Maggie, is a woman in her early 50s with a body that looks strong enough to chase a full-grown man with broom. Her hair is always tied with scarf that had seen better days. She walked with her chest forward as if she was carrying the compound on her shoulder. Her slippers make clapping noise on the ground. She wears wrapper like a uniform and always has one small purse under her armpit, which contains 3 things: keys, receipts, and trouble. Now, the funny thing about Madam Maggie is that if you see her for the first time, you will think she's the friendliest landlady in Africa because she smiles with all her teeth, and her voice will melt your heart like warm akara, so you feel safe. She'll even touch your shoulder gently and say things like, "My son, my daughter, in this house we live like a family. Nobody will stress you here," which is the first lie because in that compound, family is the reason stress exists. Before these new people came, there were old tenants who already knew her true color, and even when they were packing out, they warned the new people who came to show interest in the compound. However, they warned them in cold language because nobody wants to start a fight before they get their caution fee back. One old tenant told a new tenant secretly, "My brother, this place is peaceful if you know how to greet by 5 a.m. If you can avoid touching the main switch without permit, and if you do not complain about water." Then he smiled and left with his load. Another old tenant who sold perfume oils told someone, "If this compound was a country, our landlady would have been a dictator by now." But he said it very low because Madam Maggie's ears are sharper than CCTV camera. The new tenants arrived on a Saturday morning with trucks, dust, and excitement. Some neighbors came outside to look as usual because in Nigeria, nobody minds their business when there is free drama to watch. The first tenant to arrive was Mr. Kizito, a tailor with a very calm spirit and a big head that God gave him for reasoning. He wore a simple polo and jeans and came with only 2 bags and 1 sewing machine that looked older than some presidents. He greeted everybody politely and entered his room facing the corridor. Next was Sister MM, a prayer warrior that carries Bible like power bank. always charged and ready. She came with her younger sister and one Ghana must go bag full of wrappers and anointing oil. She smiled and said, "Good afternoon, oh," but her voice was so small like mosquito, so nobody heard her except one child. Later that afternoon, Tunde and Bola, a young married couple, arrived with carton of plates, pots, TV, and one blender that refused to work unless you beg it. They looked excited because young couples always think compound life is romantic. They do not know that very soon they will be whispering, "Close the curtain before people start gossiping about us," and "Please don't shout, remember we have neighbors." Last to arrive was Mama Coco, a food vendor with 6 frying pans, 3 coolers, and an attitude. She arrived in a keke with fresh tomatoes falling out of the nylon. She greeted nobody because she was busy calculating how she would start selling from that compound immediately so that people will not faint from hunger. She shouted, "Shift that carton, oh, my cooler will not break because of you now," as she entered her room near the kitchen area. Now, everybody was busy settling in when Madam Maggie came out slowly with her famous clapping slippers. She smiled like an auntie giving sweets to children and said, "Welcome, oh, welcome, oh. This compound is your compound. Feel at home. We are one big family here." While adjusting her wrapper and looking at people's belongings with side eyes because she was already calculating her next rent money, light money, water contribution, and emergency levy that she would soon create. She gave her introductory speech while leaning on one pillar, telling them how she lost her husband during the Abacha era, how life had not been easy raising children alone, how she had been managing this compound with love and patience, how she's not a wicked person like people say, how she believes in peace and respect, and how she cannot tolerate nonsense because she's not a child. The tenant smiled and nodded politely. Unfortunately, what they do not know is that Madam Maggie's love language is control, not hugs or gifts. She uses light as the rod and water as the staff of discipline. Anytime a tenant annoys her, she will disconnect their light from the main control box. Anytime somebody talks too much, she would lock the borehole tap with a padlock. Anytime someone parks a vehicle wrongly, she would block them with her old Toyota Picnic that smokes as if it's drank kerosene. Tenants would beg, negotiate, apologize before she would decide to reconnect or unlock or move the car, but not without giving a speech that can make motivational speakers resign. As the sun set that evening and new tenants arranged their things, one old tenant who came to collect his remaining load passed by quietly and whispered to Mr. Kizito, "My brother, just greet this woman very early in the morning. Once you do that, you will survive here." Then he disappeared like someone that escaped a battle. Mr. Kizito frowned for a moment but then waved it off and continued unpacking. After all, he was yet to see Madam Maggie's pettiness. The first time the new tenants met Madam Maggie's true character was on a very hot Tuesday evening when NEPA suddenly brought lights and the whole compound transformed from mourning to celebration in 1 second. Children screamed, "Up NEPA!" like a gospel choir. One boy dropped his bread and began dancing leg walk in front of the corridor. Mama Ima shouted from her window, "Somebody plug this phone for me before they take it again, oh," while waving one old Infinix phone like a handkerchief. Sister lifted her hands and said, "Thank you, Jesus, for this mercy," as if light was communion. Even the goats that used to roam the compound stood still as breeze from a small fan touched its face. Tunde quickly switched on the television because Chelsea was playing a match, while Bola ran to the kitchen shouting, "Tunde, pass me the rice before these people take light, oh. Let me at least boil small." Tunde shouted back, "I am coming, oh. Let me remove my slippers first. I cannot sleep and die because of rice." While running around looking for the decoder remote as if he was on a supermarket game show. Inside the other rooms, people were charging phones as if it was a national emergency. You could hear voices from different corners saying, "Where is my charger? Who took my power bank? Check under the bed. Check behind the bucket. Check that nylon near that pot." And now, because Nigerians have one communal problem, which is called charger disappearance. In the middle of all that joy, Sister started prayer rehearsal with her younger sister as night vigil was approaching. She held her Bible and said, "Ini, let us warm up before the main service. Take this tambourine, shake it small, small." Ini obeyed and started tapping the tambourine slowly, while looking sad because she wanted to go outside and play 10-10 with the other children. Unfortunately, you cannot argue with prayer warriors elders. Meanwhile, Mr. Kizito brought out his sewing machine and plugged it in. He smiled like someone who won an award because tailors suffered more when there is no light. He whispered to the machine, "Don't disgrace me today, oh, behave like a good child." And the machine worked obediently because it had sense. For a moment, everything was moving smoothly until one voice from nowhere shouted, "Who is using high current in this compound? Who is using boiling ring? Who is burning electric cooker? Come out and confess." That was how Madam Maggie, the landlady, stepped into the corridor with her wrapper tied high on her chest and slippers clapping on the ground like a talking drum. She held her small torchlight, even though light was everywhere. She pointed it like the torch of justice into every room that had their door open and shouted, "You people will not kill me with bills, oh. NEPA did not dash me transformer. They did not dash me meter. They did not dash me wire. So why are you behaving as if you are in London?" She reached Tunde and Bola's room and pushed the door slightly to peep inside like a CID officer. She saw a small cooker glowing and screamed, I knew it! Somebody is cooking with an electric stove. That is why light never stays in this compound. Come out, my dear, come out!" Bola appeared with a spoon in her hand, smiling nervously. "Good evening, ma. I just said let me cook small rice. I want to boil it quick before NEPA will take light again." Madam Maggie blinked twice and replied, "You want to boil rice quick with my lights? So NEPA bill is rice cooker, abi? So transformer is rice cooker. So wire is rice cooker. Continue, oh yeah, unplug that thing before I unplug your destiny." Tunde rushed out wearing his Chelsea jersey and said, "Mommy, calm down. We are watching match. Please don't disturb our concentration." Madam Maggie turned her neck slowly like a lizard and replied, "Since you moved in, you people have been watching match. What is football without lights? Is it Chelsea that will pay my NEPA bill? Oh yeah, off that cooker now. Use your gas like normal human being." She turned around and pointed at Mr. Kizito's sewing machine. Taylor, how many kilowatts is that machine using?" Kizito looked lost. "Ma, it is using humility and grace." And the whole compound burst into laughter. But Madam Maggie was not smiling. She eyed him and said, "Next time, if you want to sew, use daylight. God gave daylight for free, oh. Use it well." She marched to Sister MM's window, saw Ini shaking the tambourine and said, "Sister MM, you people should reduce this your choir practice now. The noise is affecting NEPA. So reduce the praise and worship until after midnight." MM nodded slowly and replied, "Yes, ma, we have heard. We will not stress NEPA again." She was about to return to her room when she heard Mama Coco talking loudly. She turned back sharply because gossip is her fuel. She pointed her torchlight at Mama Coco's door and said, "What are you saying there?" Mama Coco responded, "I am only saying I wanted to cook stew now that there is light." Madam Maggie shouted, "Light is not for stew. Light is for bulb, charging and television. Stew is not part of NEPA agreement now. Better fry that stew with stove before I lock this meter, oh." People looked at each other in disbelief because they thought NEPA belongs to everybody. They did not know that in this compound, NEPA belongs only to the landlady. Decision belongs to her alone. And peace belongs to her. When everybody finished unplugging what they were using, Madam Maggie marched to the main switch near the staircase and placed her hand on it like a soldier beside the flagpole. She looked around and said, "From today, nobody should use boiling ring. Nobody should use cooker. Nobody should use pressing iron for more than 5 minutes. And nobody should charge more than 2 phones at once. any violation and I will turn off this light without pity. We must manage because NEPA does not know we are small compound people. They think we are refinery. So please let us cooperate. Help me to help you. She walked away slowly towards her room with satisfaction on her face as the tenants watched her silently in confusion. Tunde whispered to Bola, "Is this woman normal?" Bola whispered back, "If you ask that question again, the spirit will slap you, so behave." From that day, the tenants understood something important. Madam Maggie's real language was electricity, and anyone who wanted peace must speak that language because in that compound, light was not just light, it was punishment, power and judgment. They now understood that if anybody annoyed Madam Maggie too much, she could simply say, "Oh yeah, let there be darkness," and then she would turn off the main switch with just one finger. That evening, Bola returned to her cooking on gas and grumbled angrily. "This is why Nigeria can never move forward." Kizito laughed and replied, "My sister, Nigeria is not the problem. It is your landlady that is the problem." After that Tuesday evening incident with Madam Maggie and her national NEPA constitution, the compound slowly entered a season of quiet tension where everybody became electricity police, not because they loved discipline but because they feared the switch. When NEPA brought light again the next day, the children wanted to shout, "Up NEPA!" But they swallowed it like saliva because they remembered Madam Maggie's warning and nobody wanted to use joy to attract problem to themselves. Every evening became a monitoring festival. If you plugged your phone, you would bend near the socket like a detective checking the watts. If you wanted to boil water with NEPA lights, you would shift the kettle farther from the window so that Madam Maggie would think you were cooking on gas. If you wanted to iron clothes, you would first shake your head and ask yourself whether the clothes truly needed iron or if wrinkles were part of fashion trend. One afternoon, Mama Coco tried to boil spaghetti secretly with her electric cooker because NEPA was generous enough to bring light in the afternoon. She positioned herself near the door and listened carefully for slipper sound before starting. Every small noise made her jump. Unfortunately, after 3 minutes, Madam Maggie's door slowly opened like a horror movie and Mama Coco scattered into panic. She pulled out the plug, closed the pots, hid the cooker inside a cooler, poured the spaghetti into a bowl and started blowing it as if it was hot water from gas. Madam Maggie passed with her wrapper tied high and torchlight in her hand. She asked, "What are you blowing like ancient tea?" Mama Coco smiled nervously and replied, "I am just tasting whether my soup is okay." Madam Maggie nodded suspiciously and said, "Okay, oh, keep watching yourself. I will not shout today." Then she walked away with dignity that nobody gave her. After trying to endure for a while, the electricity rules began to choke the tenants slowly. Kizito could not meet sewing deadlines because his machine only worked at night when lights came. And even that night was now danger time because Madam Maggie could appear at any moment like a part-time ghost. Bola could not iron Tunde's office shirts properly because she only had 5 minutes before Madam Maggie would shout, "Who is ironing again?" Sister could not use speaker for prayer again because Madam Maggie said that speaker is compressor. Compressor consumes light. Even the children could not watch cartoon for long because Madam Maggie would ask, "Who is using the decoder? Is it free? Are you paying extra for it? Reduce the brightness before NEPA thinks we are watching cinema film here." And so, after 2 weeks of silent suffering, Mr. Kizito decided that something had to be done for the sake of their sanity. So, he whispered to Bola while they were both fetching water from the tap like someone planning a coup, "My sister, we need to hold a meeting before this woman will kill us with NEPA. My customers are calling me tailor failure because I cannot deliver ordinary trouser and skirts on time." Bola removed her buckets, wiped her forehead and replied, "You are very correct, so I couldn't even iron my husband's shirt last night. The thing was rumpled like cabbage. We need small peace in this compound now." The next day when the sun was going down and children were fighting outside about who stole whose pencil, so. Kizito called a small meeting behind the washing line area because that was the neutral ground where Madam Maggie could not hear them well. He invited Tunde and Bola, Sister Mama Coco, and even Chinelo the gossip, because if you want information to spread well, you need a professional media personnel. They all gathered around the line pretending to be checking clothes. Bola whispered, "Is she around?" And Chinelo, who had bigger ears than her size, said, "She's inside frying fish. Her stove is still shouting. We have small time before she finishes." Then she looked around like a spy and said, "But we must hurry before she finishes frying, because once she enters the corridor, mission scatter." Kizito cleared his throat and started with small anger. "My people, we need to address this matter before we run mad. This compound cannot continue like this. This woman has turned light to personal weapon. I cannot be hiding my sewing machine like a criminal every night." Bola nodded and said, "Yes, so imagine I wanted to make jollof rice for Tunde on his birthday. Before I could even boil water, this woman shouted from the corridor, 'Off that thing before I off you.' I had to cook with lantern. That food tasted like sorrow." Sister added with that her righteous voice, "We need to understand that light is from God, and we cannot be scared of what God created for his children. How can we be worshipping fear because of domestic NEPA? This is not scriptural. This is bondage, and the Bible says we should resist oppression." Chinelo shouted, "Preach it, sister," while fanning herself with one peg. Tunde whispered, "If we talk too loud, she will hear us, so please reduce the volume of your preaching." Nodded and said, "Sorry, the spirit was rising." Then Mama Coco finally spoke, because she only speaks when the matter is touching her money. She said, "Let us talk like adults. Light is not her father's property now. She's just using it to bully us. Even my younger sister called me and asked why my stew tasted like smoke. I told her I am using stove again like 1999 survival. This cannot continue." And the whole group hummed agreements like bees. After some minutes, they formed what Bola jokingly named Coalition of the Suffering Tenants, and everybody laughed even though the matter was serious. Then they decided that they needed a spokesperson who had a calm face and a respectful voice, someone who could make the landlady listen without shouting. They all turned to Kizito because his face always looked like an apology, and besides, he was older and gentle. Chinelo pushed him forward and said, "Oh yeah, you will be the one to talk for us. You have diplomacy face. If I talk now, she will say I am rude. If Mama Coco talks, she will say she is aggressive. If Tunde talks, she will say men do not have manners. If Bola talks, she will say wives are stubborn. If Sister talks, she will say church people are too loud. So you are our Moses." Everybody agreed, and Kizito sighed and said, "Okay, I will talk, but please support me. We need to make the list of things we need so we do not forget any point during the arguments." They began drafting a small compound memorandum verbally. Kizito spoke slowly. "Number 1, no more random disconnection of lights." Bola added, "Number 2, allow us to use basic appliances like cooker and pressing iron without reason." Added, "Number 3, no shouting through windows because it is embarrassing." And Mama Coco added, "Number 4, she should stop warning my customers when they come to buy stew. Last week she told them, don't buy stew with light bill money. Is that her business?" Chinelo added, "Number 5, she should stop locking the tap during punishment season. Water is not part of NEPA bill." Tunde concluded, "Number 6, she should allow us to watch football in peace now. That is for our mental health." They were still nodding in agreement when suddenly the sound of slippers clapping approached them fast. Everybody froze because they recognized the rhythm. It was the rhythm of torture, Madam Maggie's slippers rhythm. Kizito whispered, "Everybody scatter like rats," and everyone picked random clothes from the line and pretended they came to fold. Chinelo grabbed the wet jeans, grabbed a wrapper, Coco grabbed bra, Tunde grabbed 2 socks that did not even match. Madam Maggie entered the corridor chewing fish bone with suspicious eyes and asked, "Why are you people gathering here like cultists?" Bola quickly replied, "We are just folding clothes, ma. The weather is hot. We don't want rain to scatter our destiny." Madam Maggie narrowed her eyes and said, "Better fold it well, oh. Some of you don't even know how to wash clothes very well. Your clothes already know disgrace." Then she walked away slowly like an inspector leaving the crime scene. When she disappeared through her door, everybody exhaled at once and Tunde whispered, "If NEPA does not kill us, her slippers will." That night, Mr. Kizito ironed his shirts with small faith and prepared for the battle of negotiation, because in every compound, there comes a day when tenants must choose between silent suffering and peaceful revolts. The Coalition of the Suffering Tenants had chosen peaceful revolts. Would this revolt work? How will Madam Maggie receive this protest? The battle between the suffering tenants and Madam Maggie had just begun. Watch out for part 2. If you enjoyed this story, kindly give this story a thumbs up and share the story out with your loved ones. Subscribe to this channel if you've not done so by now. Until I bring the next part your way. Bye!